miles beneath the surface of the continent. Uniquely intense pressures and temperatures at this depth make it the only place that diamonds can form. And the diamonds could only be brought up by uniquely intense eruptions. The diamond-bearing magma exploded out of the Earth at over 300 miles an hour.
Imagine the force and the power of this volcano to cut those sheer vertical walls and blow this up another 1,000 meters. This is the power of these volcanoes.
When the Pangean supercontinent split apart over 100 million years ago, scientists believe the enormous upheaval triggered these super eruptions. Because supercontinental breakups are rare, so are the diamonds they bring to the surface. The diamonds that erupted into the dinosaur world would survive unblemished until the present day. But the dinosaurs would not be so lucky. "65 million years ago, the planet was lush. Vegetation was thick on the surface. Living things were prospering like never before. But the dominant dinosaurs were about to be wiped from the face of the planet."
Dinosaur bones are found continuously throughout the sedimentary record from 230 million years ago right up to 65 million years ago, and then instantaneously they vanish.
Not only dinosaurs, but over 70% of species on Earth disappeared. From plant life upward, something terrible had happened to the entire ecosystem of the planet. This mass extinction remained a mystery for generations of paleontologists. But it is a mystery no longer. Colorado, USA. Dan Durda is taking samples from an exposed layer of rock exactly 65 million years old. Scientists now believe that it holds the answer. For Dan Durda, this powdery rock is an indication that the dinosaurs perished in a sudden astronomical catastrophe.
Dinosaurs and 75% of all the other plants and animals that live with them, this layer is their tombstone. This thin layer of clay is the important evidence of a violent event in the history of life on the planet.
The evidence held in the tombstone layer is a huge amount of an exceptionally rare element, iridium. The remarkable concentration of iridium was discovered accidentally in 1980 by a father and son team of scientists, Luis and Walter Alvarez. On the planet's surface, iridium is usually found in very small concentrations. Most of this rare element originates from space rock, deposited from the multitude of small meteors vaporizing in the upper atmosphere every day. The Alvarezes were looking for variations in the strength of these tiny meteor showers, but when they realized this huge concentration was held in the infamous tombstone layer, they proposed a radical new theory for the extinction: death from above. The dinosaur planet had been hit by an enormous meteor. Their theory remained controversial for over 10 years, until the final piece of the puzzle was discovered in Mexico. A hidden crater over 100 miles across.
In 1990, the Chicxulub impact crater was discovered, and its age, when finally dated, turned out to be precisely 65 million years old. It turned out to be, it was, the smoking gun for the Alvarez theory.
Worldwide, the tombstone layer contains an estimated 200,000 tons of iridium. This translates to a meteor over 6 miles in diameter. Its impact on the planet would have been devastating.
You've got to imagine Mount Everest flying at you across the sky at 20 kilometers per second. Several thousand cubic kilometers of the Earth's crust were vaporized and excavated and launched around the entire planet. slowly raining back down through the atmosphere to settle across the surface of the Earth as a thin layer of dust and debris.
But the meteor was not alone in wreaking destruction. Today in India, ancient lava flows exist that are so thick, whole temples have been carved into their layers. The lavas were the result of a massive eruption that was occurring simultaneously with the meteor strike. Although not as extensive as the earlier Siberian eruptions, these lava flows in western India could have buried the USA to a depth of over 600 feet. The huge clouds of toxic dust they produced would have rivaled those of the meteor. 65 million years ago, the meteor impact and the eruptions would have been a deadly double blow. "50 million years ago, life was slowly recovering after the cataclysmic extinction that obliterated the dinosaurs. The Earth had been around for over 4.4 billion years. But only now were the first mammals, our ancestors, beginning to flourish. Long before humans arrived, the continents continued to move and crash into one another. Slowly but surely, the surface started to look familiar as plate tectonics and erosion created the dramatic landscapes we see today. The Swiss Alps. Some mountain chains can be explained by volcanic eruption of rock from the depths of the Earth. But the greatest, including the Alps, contain no volcanoes. They appear to have risen as if by magic, up from the plains beneath. This famous range runs through the heart of Europe and reaches over 3 miles above sea level. How was such a huge mass of rock pushed up so high? Adrian Pfiffner is an expert on the structure of the Alpine chain, and he knows the answer.
The scene we see in front of us is the result of a collision between two continents, the African continent and the European continent.
A close study of the Alpine rocks can provide clear evidence of how the mountains were formed. The secret is revealed in quartz crystals that are extremely small.
These slices are about 25 thousandths of a millimeter. At that thickness, you see through one single grain.
The tiny crystals in the rock reveal massive deformation.
The quartz grains have been really stretched, elongated and flattened. You need large stresses in order to deform these rocks. One process that is doing this is actually the collision of two continental plates.
For the last 45 million years, as the continents have continued to move, the African plate and subplates have been grinding into Europe. The continental crust along the collision point experiences extreme pressure, and the solid rock itself is warped and buckled.
If you assume that my hands are two plates which are squeezing the rocks in between, you can see that some of the material escapes upwards and leads to the building of a mountain chain.
The twisted folds of the rock strata are exposed as the mountains are slowly squeezed higher and higher. One famous alpine mountain demonstrates clearly this collision of the African and European continental plates.